As the great Charlie Kelly would say, wild card. This isn't the Charlotte Motor Speedway you're used to. It's a road course. It's an oval. It's the Roval, and it's about to eliminate 4 more drivers from winning a championship. Welcome into a pivotal episode of Around the Track. I'm Carla Metz alongside America's crew chief Larry McReynolds. And Larry, hate it or love it, the Roval is arrived and it's about to crush a lot of people's dreams.
Well, you think about it, this is our 8th time to run the Roval, an elimination race, and how many times has it come down to the last few corners of the last lap to decide which drivers would move on to the next round?
Yeah, we're going to take a ride on the Roval with Joe Gibbs Racing's Brandon Jones, plus we'll sit down in Garage Confidential with another playoff driver. That's JGR's Chase Briscoe. But first, we got to break down NASCAR's craziest track, 17 turns over 2 miles. And a hairpin turn that will take drivers out of this race. The reason they call it a wild card weekend, well, you don't have to be a road course ace like Shane Van Gisbergen to win this race. It helps, of course, but with aspects of everything NASCAR drivers go through in the season cramming into one on this track, the winner could be decided on pit road. Now, if you ask the drivers about this, some will say that they love it. Others say, hey, let's go back to the oval. But either way, it's a drive to survive on a track that many are calling a home race.
You know, flipping stages at road courses, it becomes a extremely important part of how you run your race, and honestly, it can almost decide whether or not you have a shot to win in some cases, because flipping that second stage is going to likely determine the crowd that's going to have a shot to win. And you're not going to be flipping stages if you're in a position where you have to have points. So
the Roval is a unique place. It's obviously chaotic. You have to just be on your best mindset there, your best judgment. For not getting too much, because it can cost you. So yeah, but looking forward to it. It's a home race for us all. Yeah.
You asked me if I'd rather run a road course or an oval. I'd pick an oval, yes.
But it's a Roval.
It's a Roval. It's a road course. It's lefts and rights. They have to be banking on 2 of the turns.
All right, let's get to those track trends. 4 of the 5 previous Charlotte Roval winners are current playoff drivers. That's AJ Allmendinger. He's the only outlier in 2023, but twice the winner on this race has gone on to win the championship. That was Chase Elliott in 2020 and Kyle Larson the following year. Now, here's a wild stat. Ford, not great luck here. They haven't won here since the inaugural race in 2018 when Ryan Blaney took the checkered flag. And don't expect overtime here either. It's only happened once in the Roval's existence, and only once has a car that qualified in the top 5 actually gone on to win the whole thing. That was Chase Elliott's championship year. Now, Larry, you might never had the pleasure of being atop of the pit box at the Roval, but still, Charlotte, everybody wants to win on their home track.
Well, you do. I go back to some of the races I was able to win there, and to have crew members from the shop that didn't normally go to the racetrack be there, family, wives, kids. It's always neat, especially when you can win there and all those people get to go to victory lane to enjoy that win and celebrate with you.
All right, so let's talk specifically about the Roval. The track, wild, especially in turn 7, where people are just going to really dive bomb each other here. Now, once we get around the backstretch chicane, we get that back half banking of a normal run. How do drivers and crew chiefs handle such a wild track like this?
Well, I think there has to be some give and take. This is a 109-lap race, and you mentioned it, caller, 17 turns. That's over 1,800 opportunities to get in trouble in a turn. So I think a little bit of give and take. You talked about turn 7, the hairpin, coming back on the oval, the 2 chicanes, but don't forget turn 1. Yeah. That left-hander after restart. How many times we've seen drivers stack up like cordwood down there in turn 1, so there's a lot of treacherous places. We know as this race gets unfolding, the intensity is going to ramp up, but I think a little bit of give and take early may pay dividends. You can't win this race in the first 50 or 75 laps, but you can flat lose it.
Yeah, definitely a road course you want to try to survive. Now, if we look at where the drivers left in the Cup Series standings are. It's not as tight as it was to start the round, and some big things are going to happen to really avoid elimination for a lot of these guys. Here's the big board, though. Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, they're safely into the round of 8. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and William Byron just really need to stay clean. Of course, then there's Chase Briscoe and Logano, 21 and 13 points respectively, above the cut line, where Ross Chastain lurking. Then you've got Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, and Austin Cindric virtually in and win and in situations. What does this board tell you, Larry?
Well, going to a Roval, we know how strategy can work, and you talked about it from William Byron up. You know, they're just trying to get 5 more playoff points, or maybe win a stage and get another playoff point. When I look at Reddick, when I look at Wallace, when I look at Cindric, the math doesn't show it, Carla, but you said it. They're in a must-win situation. But where it gets interesting, Chase Briscoe, he's kind of okay, but he probably needs to think about scoring some stage points. But when you look at Logano and Chastain separated by 13 points, I don't know if I see either one of those contending for the win, but I think you will see their crew chiefs and their guys on that pit box doing everything they can to score every stage point. And it may not come down to who outruns who doesn't have an issue or have a problem, which we know can always happen at a road course and has happened to a lot of playoff drivers in these playoffs so far.
Yeah, strategy going to be key on this weekend and during race day. But of course, we got to revisit last week. A lot of drama happening on the final lap at Kansas. Bubba Wallace, of course, you can see here chasing down, trying to beat his boss for a win and in to advance. That's Denny Hamlin. The 11 nudges the 23 in the wall. That allowed Chase Elliott to cash in. Denny says no apologies coming. Bubba, of course, hasn't completely gotten over this because he was possibly going to win and not even have to worry about the Roval this week. Tech Alliance, Toyota help, whatever this is, do you think this changes the relationship at all?
Well, I'm sure it's going to take a toll on it, but Carla, Denny Hamlin and I, we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but I totally support Denny Hamlin here. It's the final corner of the final lap, and I love what he said. I wear an owner's hat Monday through Friday. I'm the driver of the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing on Saturday and Sunday. He was doing everything he could for his race team, for his sponsors to try to win that race. Unfortunately, neither one of them won the race. Chase Elliott was the beneficiary of it, but I totally support. You'll never hear me condemning someone for racing hard, and that's exactly what both of them were doing there. Unfortunately, neither one of them went to victory lane.
Yeah, I feel like Joe Gibbs probably appreciates that too from Denny Hamlin, his driver. But we got plenty more to come on Around the Track, including one of NASCAR's greatest success stories, and he's looking for one more triumph this weekend.
I mean, you can't drive a slow car fast. That's what Harvey used to always tell me. It's the truth. I mean, it takes all of us.
And executing well. Chase Briscoe said those are the keys to the Roval strategy this weekend. But what else will make him successful? Stick around and find out. You can hear from the driver of the 19 coming up. And if you want to see what the drivers will see this weekend when they hit the track, well, guess what? We've got you covered. Xfinity Series star Brandon Jones took us for a spin on the Roval. You'll get that right along next. And Larry, would you fancy yourself an artist of any kind?
Absolutely not.
Well, the driver of the iconic 43 car, Eric Jones, just picked up a paintbrush this week. We'll show you his masterpiece when Around the Track continues. An annual tradition at Charlotte Motor Speedway has Legacy Motor Club driver Eric Jones tickled pink. Earlier this week, Jones joined a number of breast cancer survivors and advocates as they painted the pink walls at CMS pink in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Many women writing their stories and messages of hope on the walls. Even Noah Gregson and Ross Chastain joined in to help. While both drivers are happy to lend time and fame to help a great cause, he knows this is more than just awareness. It's about celebrating those who have gone ahead and battled against this disease.
For me, especially as a 7-year breast cancer survivor, this means a lot to me, with us really giving the message of hope and faith to everyone that's going through the journey, and to those of us that have been on that journey before, just giving us the courage to keep going.
Just being out here and sharing the stories, I think, is the best part of it. When you can hear those stories of survival and fight and what everybody has gone through in their fight with it.
Well, you've heard Larry McReynolds and I talk about it, but you can't truly experience the Roval until you've been on it. And now we get it. It might be a challenge for those who aren't NASCAR drivers, so that's why we called in a favor. Xfinity Series star Joe Gibbs Racing's Brandon Jones took our Casey Funderburg for a spin on NASCAR's wild card track.
All right, I'm joined with Brandon Jones from Joe Gibbs Racing, and Brandon, he's going to take us around the Roval and show us the best way to drive this thing. So are you ready?
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go. You all were just talking about like the differences between obviously the ovals, and then the Roval is kind of like the road course and the oval.
Yes.
So how does that change your mindset when you come into this race?
Yeah, I mean, it's not as bad for me as it probably is the crew guys, because they have to know how to set the car up to do a little bit of both. And I don't get into the weeds of all the setup stuff. I study the driving aspect of the events, but I'm sure that it's tough to figure out how to make the car work around this road course part. And then you also have the, like you said, the oval section to worry about too. What you'll notice about this track too is a lot of stuff is blind. Like when I say blind, you can't really see around, you know, some of these corners. Believe it or not, as we're coming up this hill, there's going to be a right-hander, but as you're looking at it, you're like, where in the world am I going to end up going? And all of a sudden it pops up over this hill and you're like, oh, I better turn into the corner. So it's a unique layout for sure. This whole section that we're on is fairly new as of last year. So they just added this new turn 7, super tight corner, big passing zone, because this carries you now. We're getting onto what we call the NASCAR 1 and 2. This is the oval section.
Feels a little more natural,
the NASCAR
maybe.
track, yeah. Or I kind of get back into my home element.
What's like a high risk, high reward moment in this particular race?
Yeah, so there's a lot of corners here that are very risky to push, but there's also, you know, I think some areas too, if you push the car in some of those higher risk areas, you can make some passes on guys because they're not really expecting you to pass in some areas. And so, yeah, I think that, you know, you just have to balance some of those things out during the event, and that's what makes, I think, driving this place so challenging probably, is you're constantly going through your head about, you know, do I make the pass here? Where do I do it? Is it risky? Is it not?
So doing this today, did that get you excited for
Oh yeah, look, I got no, I do. I get pumped up about coming to this track. I've made so many laps here. I think I was here for the inaugural race way back when, and so yeah, I always enjoy the aspect and the environment here.
The NASCAR playoffs have had all the action this year. However, our sources are telling us changes could be coming sooner rather than later. And we're not just talking about a final round change. The inside news, that's next. And Chase Briscoe knows he's on the bubble, but he's got a plan to make sure he drives into Vegas with a playoff ribbon on his car. We go one-on-one with the JGR driver next on Around the Track. All right, here's the rest of what the schedule has in store for teams. Next week, we are rolling the dice in Las Vegas. The last weekend, we won't have trucks with us, and then we're getting supersized at Super Speedway Racing. It's anyone's game at Talladega, and then penultimate race, the Paperclip at Martinsville. Expect some mosh pit restarts there, and then, of course, out to the desert to crown some champions. We finished the season in Phoenix. Now that's the schedule. Next year's schedule already out as well, but what we don't know exactly is the playoff situation. We reported last month that NASCAR is looking to go to a 4-race final round instead of 1 race, but now we have confirmed through sources that NASCAR is also considering doing away with all of that with the playoff system and going with a new point system that's similar to the old Winston Cup days. So Larry, before I get your thoughts, I want you to take a look at this. If we instituted the old school scoring board, this would be your current top 10. Christopher Bell would be leading the circuit with Chase Briscoe close behind him. And then look who's in 9th. Chris Buescher, who isn't even in the playoffs. Some other notables you don't see. Shane Van Gisbergen, who has 4 wins this season. Austin Cindric, who's still in the playoff hunt. he'd be down in the 20s somewhere. I mean, Larry, what should NASCAR do? Is there a way to save the playoffs at all?
Well, what your numbers don't show there is with 4 races to go, how many drivers would still truly be in contention to win the championship. I promise you, it's not 10, it's probably about 2 or 3.
Right.
I honestly, Carla, I'm exhausted about thinking about it. Just tell us what you're going to do, and that's what we'll do. But I have no idea for the life of me why we want to go away from the format we have right now. Because for the last 11 years, 10 times, the driver had to win the race to win the championship. We did not know who was going to be our champion to the closing laps, whether it was at Homestead Miami Speedway or for the last few years at Phoenix. And what I'm afraid, no matter if we go to 4 races or the full schedule, is we're going to go to the final race of the year, and you and I, as media members, we're going to have to say, well, Joey Logano only has to finish 15th or better to win the championship. How exciting is that? I have no idea, and I'm old school, why we want to go away from what we've got right now.
All right, well, we're not sure what Chase Briscoe's stance is on all of that after getting Larry's input, but we do know one thing. He's only focused on getting into the round of 8 by winning the Roval this weekend. Our Casey Funderburg found him in our office in this week's Garage Confidential.
Chase, this weekend is obviously a big weekend for you, but I want to look back on the playoffs before we got here. How would you just assess your playoff run so far?
I feel like it's been really strong. I think we're averaging right around a 5th place finish, which I don't know if anybody else has been able to do that. So yeah, it's just crazy the nature of the beast that the playoffs are, and just how it always resets every 3 races. It's kind of put us in this weird spot where we're kind of right around the cut line. So yeah, we've been performing. I feel like we need to. Just the points are obviously a huge deal, and the stage points and everything else. So yeah, we've done a really good job, I feel like, to this point, bringing speed and executing. It's just a matter of doing it for 4 more weeks, really 5.
Your racing has really, I feel like, taken a turn in the second half, or the back half of the season, which is obviously the most important time. Why do you think that is? Were there some changes made that you feel like are attributing to that, or you're just driving better right now?
I think definitely just going to a new team this year, it took, really that first, 12 or so weeks just to even establish who we were as a race team, and me gel with them gel with me. And, kind of going back to what I was just saying about the playoffs, that kind of has hurt us now come playoff time, because we haven't been able to, accumulate as many of those playoff points as the other guys were, just because our season has kind of been 2 different seasons to this point. Hopefully we can, finish it strong now.
Having to get used to a new team and the way all of that works, then obviously being in the playoffs, what have you just learned about yourself throughout this entire experience?
It takes a village and just a good team in general. I knew that before, but certainly now being at a more of a premier team, it really just shows. You can't drive a slow car fast. That's what Harvey used to always tell me. It's the truth. It takes all of us. It really takes total execution to win these races, and even just do it consistently. When we're able to execute, we're typically right there in the mix, and when we don't, we're running 10th or whatever. So yeah, that's been the biggest thing I would say I've learned throughout the course of this season.
Obviously, executing is going to be really important with the Roval, and especially being so close to the cutoff line. So going into this weekend's race, has your strategy changed at all, just knowing what's at stake this weekend?
Not really. Still go there and try to win the race. I think you're probably a little more just conscious of what's going on throughout the race, and you don't want to make a move that's a high risk move, right? That has a low probability of working out. Just knowing the position that we're in, we're really only racing 2 people this weekend. As long as we can outrun Logano and Ross Chastain, we're moving on. So you're kind of having a race within another race, and racing just 2 guys. So we'll base our strategy around that, I'm sure. The Roval this time of year is certainly just chaos in general. Every time you think you've kind of seen the unpredictable, it happens again. And just, the playoffs make it even just crazier, I think. Just the nature of how the Roval, you can go from being up front to all of a sudden in a wreck on a restart or something. So it's just a wild one. It's one that you certainly don't want to be near the cut line going into, but that's the position that we're in, and yeah, we'll go there and see what we can do.
And you've done well on road courses this season, so do you feel like you're maybe a little more comfortable or a little more confident in yourself going into this, knowing how well you've performed earlier this season on the road courses?
I definitely feel good on the road courses. I feel like we've been strong on kind of all the road courses this year, but the Roval is just so unpredictable, and there's a lot out of your control on restarts, and the hard part about this race is just how the strategy plays out. At some point, I'm going to find myself near the back of the pack trying to drive back through.
Turn 7, that's obviously a big area where there could be a lot of wrecks because there's blind spots, and you've only driven it once. How are you going to attack that turn, since it is going to be potentially a nasty one for you guys?
Yeah, it's definitely the most interesting corner on the racetrack. There's just so much that can happen. It's, you know, a really, really slow corner. We're maybe 20 miles an hour at the most there. So everybody's diving dive bombing each other, and just restarts. It honestly just creates wrecks a lot of the time. We've seen kind of time and time again last year where guys on restarts make a move and it collects somebody, and then you have a 5 or 10 car pileup. So yeah, that'll be a huge difference maker in us trying to move on, is if we can survive, obviously all the corners, but specifically turn 7 on restarts for sure.
This was the burnout from last year's winner at the Roval. Kyle Larson would love to win again. He hasn't since May, and he's not on top of the odds makers boards either. We're going to show you our victory lane locks next on Around the Track. All right, one thing left to do. It is time for our victory lane locks. Larry, SVG is the sportsbook favorite going into this weekend. I feel like that makes sense, but who do you have winning it all?
Well, SVG is the low-hanging fruit. In fact, this fruit's that's already been picked and in the basket. I like picking my own fruit.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the only other driver that's won this year turning left and right. I'm going to go with Christopher Bell in that 20 car. A couple of second-place finishes, the win at COTA this year, 4 top 5s. I think he's going to get it done on Sunday.
Not Kyle Larson, right?
Worst average finish of all of our full-time drivers on road courses. Average finish of 31st this year.
That is quite the stat there. All right, remember, 12 drivers becomes 8. We hope you enjoy the Roval, and we'll see you next week ahead of Vegas.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.